Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Product Management Interview Experience. And today we have Priyanka Arora with us, who has recently joined PayU as a product manager. Welcome, Priyanka.
Hi, Sugat. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. So, as Sugat introduced me, I am Priyanka and I'm working as a product manager for PayU currently. So, I have an experience of around 5 years in the product management domain. Before this, I was working as a product manager with Practo. I
Great,
hope it
Priyanka.
helps.
Absolutely, it helps. Okay. So moving to our first question, Priyanka, we wanted to know your entire interview experience at PU, starting from your preparation phase to, what were the different number of rounds, what were the entire journey looks like.
Okay, yeah, sure. So I was approached by PayU for the product management role. And that is when I thought it is a good opportunity to explore another domain. And PayU being a brand in itself made me work towards it. So I think it started with the HR contacting me and explaining me the details about the product role and what is expected out of me through the various through my journey in PayU. So what would be expected out of me? That is what she basically discussed. Post which I had around 6 rounds. The initial few rounds were with senior product managers, and head of product. The final round was basically with the chief product officer. So yeah, and I think these rounds basically were trying to test me on my product management skill. It was domain agnostic, and there were open questions with respect to product management, which I think we can discuss going forward.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Great. I think so. Can you walk us through that round by round, like how was your experience and what were the kind of questions which were being asked?
Sure. So I think the first round was more of an exploratory call where they wanted to understand my basic experience and the kind of responsibilities I took care of with Practo. And it was more to make me understand the role better and the responsibilities that I will have to take care if I become a part of PayU. So that was the first exploratory round, and that was with the HR. Post which I had the second round with a senior product manager at PayU, and the round was primarily around the lines of my resume, trying to understand a particular project that I worked on recently in my resume, the challenges that I faced in that project, and what were the key major pointers, and how did I, like, what were the KPIs of the project, how did I track these KPIs, and how did the project evolve with time. So that was the first round, mainly around. It lasted for around 45 minutes to 50 minutes, to what I recall. And it was like a very conversational round where a lot of to and fro was happening. It was an open conversation discussing about my projects, the difficulties that I had, whatever the kind of tracking that I introduced, what was the major role that I played, the kind of interactions I had with the tech team, the kind of interactions I had with the QA team, and what till what end did till what level of project management did I do with that product, with a feature launch that I did. So yes, that was majorly round one, pretty conversational and open in nature. um, Actually, if I count an exploratory round as well, I'll call it round two. So that was round two. Round two again was scheduled with a senior product manager, though not from the same team in which I would be working in, but from another team. So this was again, this round again lasted for around. It was supposed to be for around 30 minutes, but somewhat it lasted for around 50 minutes. The It was a discussion which was phased into various things. So the first part was, I it was basically they were trying to analyze my skill towards the problem statement, the way I pick up a problem statement, the way I break down the problem statement, the way I go ahead and solve the problem statement. That is how it was basically circled around. The second part of it was around certain guesstimation based questions, which is basically trying to see that how I would approach a problem statement when there is lack of data, And when there are only limited amount of information, how much do I go by my gut, how much do I have certain approximations in mind, and where all do I use these approximations to further validate the data going forward. So for example, you have an hypothesis in mind. How many times do you get back to the hypothesis to test the hypothesis with which you build the feature to be right or not? So that was the second part of the interview. The third part of the interview again majorly revolved around my resume itself, where a particular project was picked up, and details along the lines of the project were discussed. And basically it was a feature which I had launched recently at Practo. So the details around the impact of the feature, the details around the UI and the UX, usability testing, how was it done, how did the rollout happen, what was the GTM plan around that. So basically trying to test on my communication skills and the way I basically approached various touch points. That was the second, that was the final part of the interview. So yeah, that was my third round. So these were the three rounds. Fourth round was, I think it was a little longer and more exhaustive in nature, and this was with the head of the product. This lasted for around, I think, 1.5 hour. It was pretty exhaustive, where I remember discussing about the kind of users, the user types that we have, like resurrecting users, we have repeat users, new users. What is the definition of these user bases? So how do you define your target audience? How do you decide if this is your target audience? How do you classify your target audience? And then how do you define metrics around the target audience? Then second thing was, how do you prioritize for certain features? How do you ensure that timelines also become a factor of the prioritization that you are doing as a product manager? And what are the calls and what model do you follow for prioritization as such? If there is any certain model that we followed at Practo. So yeah, we did follow a prioritization method, and trying to understand the ROI that I created from the features that I had launched. So maths around the fact that you obviously approximate numbers coming into play here, but trying to understand the logic and the concept that goes behind that math. So that was one more part of the conversation. Then trying to understand my approach towards, like, the way you write PRDs, the way you interact or write SOPs, the teams that I've interacted with, be it tech ops, be it with operations, be it with sales, be it with marketing, the GTM plan and the details of the GTM plan that was created while I was trying to launch a product feature at Practo. So yeah, I think it was majorly along these lines. And a part of it was giving an assignment for which I had to solve on the go. So that was basically a problem statement where I had to design a system, a laptop for a visually impaired person. So what would be like starting the user experience, starting the entire experience from the person trying to enter into an organization, to trying to go and sit on the laptop, to operating on the laptop, and the person was expected to do a sales job. And then the next part of the problem statement was that I was expected to get certain hours of work from the person. So certain amount of productivity was expected from the visually impaired person. So what do I need to do to actually increase the productivity? And if there are hindrances towards increasing the productivity, how as a product manager can I solve it? Can be both in form of a technical solution, can be in form of a non-technical solution. So this was one of the major problem statements that was introduced to me, or that was asked across. So yeah, that was the fourth round. The final round was with the chief product officer, and to my understanding, that round was basically to see, to check on the cultural fit within the organization. So it was more of a casual round, trying to understand my thinking towards work from home, my thinking towards how product teams should be interacting across, or what kind of learnings should be shared within the product teams, or even the kind of interactions that should happen between product and tech, because that's like a very sensitive interaction, and how much of control should a product manager have, or it should be like a parallel functioning behavior or nature. So it was more of a cultural understanding that was happening during the final round with the product, with the chief product officer. Yeah, I think that was about it majorly in terms of the 5 rounds that happened with PayU. So yeah, I hope it helps you with.
Yeah, I think this is pretty much detailed. I think most of the viewers who are currently watching this will actually get help and understand the entire interview process. And congratulations again on cracking this extensive interviews. I think you have described most of it, starting from guesstimates, case studies, all behavioral, cultural fit questions. I think that's pretty much it, how product management interviews happen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very
And
much to the same things.
and how long was the entire duration of this whole interview process?
Right. So I think the entire duration, to my understanding, lasted for 3 to 3.5 weeks, to what I recall at the moment. And the reason was primarily based on my availability. They were pretty
Yeah,
flexible towards my availability. If I would have been available at a faster pace, then things would have moved a little faster. But yeah, to my understanding, the interview process went around for 3.5 weeks, and the eventual rollout of the final offer rollout took another week. So I think you can call it be a month and a half.
awesome, awesome. Great. Okay, Priyanka, thanks. Let's move on to our next question. And so, what are few do's and don'ts uh, candidates should do during a product management interview?
Right. Okay. One of the major do's that I realize that people should do during the product management interviews is absorb the problem statement that is being floated across. In the hurry to respond, or in a hurry to give answers to what is coming up right up front, gives across an impression to the person on the other end that you're not thinking it through, which is one of the very important roles of a product manager, to look at a problem statement from various lenses, break it down, and then approach towards the solution part of it. Because understanding the problem statement, understanding for whom, asking the right set of questions is the other important part. The moment a problem statement is floated across, the first thing that you should be doing while you are interviewing is asking the right set of questions to the interviews that will help you break down the problem statement properly. Because that also helps you understand the interviewer's mindset to a great extent. So that is one of the very important things that everyone should do. I mean, obviously, don't overuse this power of asking and pissing off your interviewer, but just use it in a controlled manner where you get what you actually want from the interviewer, trying to understand, trying to get a direction to the problem statement, to the answer of the problem statement that interviewer is looking for. Second important do is, a part of the do's is that always be open to ask out for help. If you're stuck anywhere, do not be shy about the fact that you did not understand the problem statement, or you don't have an answer to it. Always open up the approach that you are going to take towards solving that problem, and be very open if you're not able to reach to a conclusion. They're not here to torture you, or they're not here to get an answer out of you, because there's nothing right or wrong out there. It's always based out of experience, it's always based out of examples that you see around. So be open, have your pointers very clear in your mind. The third point which is there is, have a very systematic approach towards answering, ensuring that you're also covering certain edge cases, giving the interviewer an impression that you are not looking at a straight line. You're also looking at the edge cases, which become an important point of your role. So that is the second thing. Third thing is, be very clear in terms of communication that you are having with the, sorry, actually it's the fourth thing. Fourth thing is, be very clear in terms of the communication that you're trying to have with the interviewer. Also, be very clear on the expectations that you have from the role, and have it upfront. Just because you want to get into the role, don't shy away from the fact on where you see yourself in the coming weeks, or in the coming months, or in coming like a time span of 2 years or something. Because a clash at that level, you might get into a job, but you might not feel happy about it later, because you might not be doing what actually excites you. So it's always okay to wait for the right opportunity than just try to force fit yourself in one. So these are the four things which are like do's for according to me in interviews. And yeah, don'ts would primarily count in is don't fake it. Like, be as transparent as you can. Because I still remember while I was giving the interview for PayU, and this was my conversation with the head of product at PayU. The first thing he said that he interviewed a lot of people, and it looked like they had literally ratified books on product management and were oozing it out in every way possible. And it literally looked like, how can one be so organized and not natural in this way, and be like, it just sounded like they were reading the steps out of a book and trying to solve the problem statement accordingly. So just be transparent and natural, and try and quote as many examples possible from the work that you have done in the past. So that is one, like, again, I mean, a don't or a do, whatever you count it to be. So that is one more part. The other thing which you should definitely not do is trying to give an answer for something you are not aware of, be it in form of a tech discussion. If you don't know a part in a tech discussion, be very clear to call it out, and be very inquisitive about how would if the interviewer would have been in your position, how would have the interviewer solved it. So yeah, I think that's pretty much about it.
Great. I think that's a great list of checklists. What should a candidate do and should not do? I think that's awesome list, Priyanka. Moving on to a final question, Priyanka. Uh, how can someone or an aspiring candidate get into a product role at PayU? Like, uh, what are the few things they should keep in mind when applying to PayU, or how can they prepare themselves to be where you are right now?
Okay, I think a couple of tips that really helped me across, and I think these go kind of standard for all product management based interviews. These are, you should always, read up a lot on the guesstimate, try and solve a lot of case studies that are available online. And if you go and Google around, mostly I took help of Google. I would go and Google around the interviews and the interview answers that people have given when they were interviewing for Facebook or when they were interviewing for Google. So these kind of open book answers are available on Google. It's just like a search away. They kind of help you streamline your thinking process and break down the problem statement, and definitely go through a lot of guesstimate based problems, because I have seen that a lot of guesstimate based problems come across in various interview steps at various levels. So these two things, and yeah, definitely there's this book on how to crack the product management interview. That was a big help. So because it breaks it down to the level of tech knowledge, basic tech knowledge that you should be having if you're a non-tech product manager, to the fact of kind of guesstimate questions, and to also the case studies, some sample case studies. All of these are there, and also they help you frame your resume in the right manner. So all these information is pretty much nicely laid out in that book. So that is one more piece you can take help from.
Awesome, Priyanka. And I really hope that candidates who are watching till now, I think if they want to get into PU, I think they can definitely reach out to you directly for any
Definitely.
such help. And Priyanka would be more than happy to refer you for any open positions at PU.
Definitely, so good. Definitely, and we are looking out for people who can help us here.
Okay, great. I think this video might convince or convey there's a huge amount of people PU is still looking out for. So please feel free to go to their job sites and get a referral from PU.
Definitely, thank
Perfect.
you.
And any before we wind up, any last piece of advice for anyone who's watching this video?
Yeah, I think just be confident, be yourself, and understand your product well, understand your resume pretty well. Don't try and to my understanding, an interview is 70% in your control and 30% in the interviewer's control. So use that 70% to redirect and shape your interview process, and all the very best.
Great. It was really nice talking to you, Priyanka, getting to know about you, your entire journey, and we really wish you all the best for all your upcoming challenges and work. Thank you so much
Thank,
again.
thank you.